What's funny about this soul teacher group that was different than my last soul teacher group is that like my last soul teacher group, they were all coaches pretty much. Like they were all kind of already doing the work. So I assumed I was like going to be teaching some sort of, I was like, oh, I guess, I'm just teaching them how to do intuitive work and then they can like weave that into their businesses, even though some of them were coaches, like business coaches or something just very different than intuitive work. But then when I brought this group in, I thought it was so fascinating that like the minority were coaches. The majority of you were happy in your jobs and kind of, whatever. So I was like, okay, well, my inkling was that at some point it was going to show the work was like being called for some reason. There was like a reason that you guys were like looking to be like to kind of master the work. And it's been interesting to watch all of you go through this process because a lot of you are starting to understand that there's like a reason that you took the course and that, some of it may weave into like actually an exchange of money. Like we don't have to look at it as like a business or a change of career, but it looks like there may be an exchange. And to be honest, like that is, I've shared a bunch, but like that's the way that I started too. Like I was just interested in this work. I had no idea why it was calling me. And I honor all of you guys, and I'm so impressed by all of you who, who followed the work, even though you didn't know what it was for. I'm really proud of you for doing that. And now we're, maybe seeing a little bit more. So same thing with me, Kristen. Like all I could see in the beginning was I was like being told to do readings, and I didn't even know how to do readings the way that I know how to do them now. So it was like a very scary thing for me. I was I was like running a business with my husband, so I needed to make like my hobby, which was like writing inspirational things. I needed to make like money because I needed to find a way like out of my husband's business. I needed to like kind of prove that I could be on my own. I was like, I got to get out of daddy's house, basically. So I had to, even if it didn't make sense, and like at the time, the only kind of psychic business I had seen was like in Miami, you go to like a Cuban santera who's just basically like a gypsy from like the Cuban side of that you like don't venture off to. Like my parents always told me not to go because they're gonna put like a dead chicken under your bed, tell you to put a dead chicken under your bed. And that was the only kind of like psychic business I had seen. So it was very scary for me because I thought like I just thought like this is crazy. Like how am I had like these goals of doing work that I love and making money and all these kind of things, but I couldn't understand why I was being called to just do these readings, which I didn't even know how to do. So, but thankfully it was a mix of just being like kind of being desperate to get out of the situation, like just being desperate to like be like, fine, I'll do it, and also I, like I say, and I try to model for you guys, like I really do follow like what spirit tells me. So like thankfully that and not questioning, even though I did, I mean, I tried a bunch of stuff like what, but I didn't question the fact that like I was being asked to do readings. And with time it grew into this, and it felt very natural. Like at some point, like it felt very like it wasn't such a big crisis where like right now where you are, if that were to be your path, like to know that information right now would be a huge crisis, like it would be like this is so overwhelming. But so in many ways the reason they don't show us the full path but they give us like feelings and all that kind of stuff is because believe me, if you knew the whole path, like you would die, like you would be paralyzed. So we have to trust that, like the same way that my daughter, well now she's 15, but when she was like 4, I would kind of a little bit, I would warn her about not letting anybody touch her private parts, right? I'm not going to tell her at that age, like, hey man, there's men that like may rape you or like whatever, right? Like, cause she knew that it would be awful. So I told her like what she could know at that time. And then as she gets older and she's more ready, we can have more expansive conversations. So it's the same thing about like a lot of what you guys are going through is that like trust that the information that you're getting, even though you don't have the whole path, you don't want the whole path, you can't handle the whole path, and like this is in your protection. So it sounds like, Kristen, that you're just like being called to use it, and maybe you don't know exactly how, but just use it in the way that makes the most sense to you. Like if that means um telling a few friends that you're doing readings and like sending them your Venmo link for $100, like then so be it. If that means that you just want to like let people um like that you want to do healings on people or whatever, like then that. So just follow whatever is the first step and do your best to not overthink it. It will show itself, for sure. And I am, it's funny, I am, to be honest with you, like I am in just the same amount of dark as you guys are in, because even when I was called to do soul teacher, I didn't know why I was being called to do soul teacher. And even when you guys came in, and a lot of you again were had professional jobs and like didn't really like look like you were switching, I was in the dark that so many of you are actually going to go off and be spiritual teachers yourself. So I I'm in the same kind of like darkness as you are, but I feel that that is like, I don't, it's not my place to question that. And I feel that that is out of protection. So I had somebody read, one of the girls actually from Soul Teacher, like read me one day, and she was, and I was like kind of playing with a few things in my brand. And she says, like, she's like, no, Nikki, but you're going to be responsible for training so many spiritual teachers. And it's like, I don't go that far to think about that. I just do what I'm told, in a way. And it was just funny to see that. So, Kristen, it sounds like you don't know the whole path, but you're kind of feeling like you want to use it. So just experiment with it. And if, let's say you experiment and you do a few healings and you're like, oh, I don't really like how that was. Maybe if I do, what if I would like put it in an ebook, and then you do the ebook and you're like, oh, I did like that. And then, so like, just experiment, like allow yourself to use it in a way that sounds fun. You guys have so much creative freedom as to how you use this work. Even when spirit calls you to be part of like the army of light and all that kind of stuff, you still have so much free will. Like you don't have to do it the way Nikki's doing it. You don't have to do it the way this person's doing it. Like you get to use your skills however you want to. So it is a co-creation. You're probably being pulled, like you said, like you're kind of feeling like you're supposed to do something, but you can, then the co-creation part is that like you get to bring in your, what works for your lifestyle, what works for your comfort level, what works for your creativity. So you have a lot of free will as to how you use it. Like for me, because I was already kind of set up as a blogger at the time, like it made sense for me to do it kind of publicly and, all that kind of stuff. But because that made sense for me, but I didn't have to do it that way. I mean, I could have had like a little shop in Miami, brick and mortar, and only do people like locally in Miami, and that would have fulfilled my purpose also. So don't feel like you're going to get it wrong. Just know that like you're being called to it, and then experiment with ways that feel like it's a middle ground where you're like, okay, this feels good for me, and you'll find that with as you experiment. So